You had to talk right over the intro, didn't you? You couldn't help yourself for just one moment.
Nope.
Hello, 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 everybody. I'm Pedro.
And I'm Meredith.
And this is Gritty Reboot. And today we are finishing our installment on The Grudge, as we're going to take a look at a movie and a show. Just one season of it, though, because it's all we got. Sadly, we'd love a lot more, Anthony. We'd love a lot more.
Call it a mini-series. So.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a limited thing, but they clearly left an option for a second season. Netflix didn't give it. But today we are taking a look at The Grudge 2020, the American production, and the Japanese TV series Ju-on Orgins, as it was known here in America. This is the episode I have been... Well, I wouldn't say I was dreading. Meredith, I had something for this episode that I don't normally have. And that's an amazing amount of hope. I believed that I had misjudged The Grudge 2020. That I was mistaken, that I had been too harsh. And so I believed that this was going to be the beginning of that film's rediscovery right here on this very podcast. And you know what I discovered?
You're full of shit.
It's absolute trash.
Yeah.
It is just as bad as people say. And the reason that I could not remember anything bad is because I couldn't remember a thing from the movie. It simply just left my mind.
That's because it's unremarkable.
In truly every way, this movie is unremarkable. Yeah. There is, we don't have any memory for seeing it. I do want to preface a couple things about this movie, though. And one of those is that this movie was released in 2020 during the pandemic. So it gets a little lost, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can understand why people might have completely forgotten about this one or may not even know that it exists. Because, like I said, it is, released in the pandemic, and it was about a $14 million film. On name alone, grossed about $50 million worldwide, and universally reviled among fans and critics. So this movie, like I said, didn't make much of a cultural impact, but in 2020, they needed to reboot this sucker, so Hollywood gave us another Grudge movie.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Spencer.
I'm here about selling the house.
Is anyone home? Hello?
We're waiting for the jump scare too.
Yeah.
This movie's just a collection of jump scares, so there it is.
There we
jump
go.
Scare. Woo! You're terrified. Do you feel it in your bones? The fear.
This is Peter Spencer.
With a detective name like Muldoon.
Yeah, Muldoon.
Straight out of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Well, always made me think of the Hunter in Jurassic Park, I think. Listen, it's not important. So, yeah, I derided the Grudge 2004 of the American film for being a bit pointless last week, because, it is a straight remake, and I think you're better off watching the original movie. I think you're almost hurt by the Western actors in it. But that was still an expression of art done by the original artist of that. So there was improvement of scares, effects went up. So, it's not worthless. I just felt like it wasn't necessarily the best venture. Like, you just simply could have watched the OG movie and you could have made a real sequel. But it's whatever. This is, and I know we're not talking about the plot just yet. I'm just going to say my main gripe about the movie is, and we talk about being unremarkable. It's just like there's no point to this movie being in any existence at all than to just keep a right holder with the property. Like, that's the only thing this movie ever accomplishes. Yeah. It's just making sure whoever holds on to the American theatrical rights to The Grudge has some piece of crap to throw in theaters. And this is such a waste of a talented cast. Because I'll get my compliment out early on. The acting in this movie is not the problem at all. And I really mean that, from Lin Shaye to our girl Andrea Riseborough, John Cho, the underrated John Cho, who has fantastic chemistry with Betty Gilpin in this movie. Like, the acting is just amazing. Jackie Weaver's great in this, in a lot of deleted scenes, which we'll get into in a little bit. And, well, I guess I'll say it right now. There is almost 25 minutes of deleted scenes that you can go and watch on YouTube. And to me, these scenes are incredibly unique because they're almost all character moments and extended flashbacks. It was like this movie had had like a bet it had to hit 90 minutes. And so you have all of these nice little character moments and better build up to scares left on the cutting room floor. It's one of the most baffling editing decisions I think I've ever seen in a movie. Because I can understand, like Prometheus is another one where I think they make the plot murkier to keep the film moving, and I don't think that works for that movie's benefit at all. You need to find a middle ground. This is just a hatchet job.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's just like, okay, the movie's not great. Make it as short as you can. Like, what do you mean make it as short as you can? And some editor did that and just cut out everything. He's like, well, you don't really need this to understand anything, but it completely robs the movie of any personality. And I don't believe that would have made this movie a 10 out of 10, but maybe I'd like to have seen that one instead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the one thing I will say to the director's credit is this cut was taken away from him and changed into something incredibly bare bones. And I mean, I really can't think of a movie that has this much life and personality cut out of it and left somewhere else.
It's pretty egregious.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's Nicholas Pesky, I think is his name.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a real shame. It absolutely is. So, you know, I guess that's really all I can say, but we have a real failure of a movie and a real chore to sit through, an absolute chore to sit through.
Yeah, it's just not a great movie.
I just wanted to mention those things to its if you've seen this movie and think it's horrible, check out those deleted scenes. You might kind of open your eyes a little bit and feel a little bit of sympathy for this director. It would have been nice to see a real director's cut.
Well, we'll find out later, but I was managed to find a 10-star review.
Okay, well, hey, somebody does love it. So let's go ahead and let's start tearing down what this movie calls a plot.
All right. We start in 2004 Tokyo. A lady is talking to Yoko, who is the person that takes care of the old woman and goes missing.
I like how you wrote down a lady, but you remembered Yoko's name.
Yeah.
But yes, Yoko, that is our direct connection to the first movie. So we are tied into the other two, kind of three movies. They don't necessarily make the third film non-canon in this film, so I do want to mention that right now for you super Grudge fans. Yes, I did watch the third movie, and it's better than this one. But that's not high praise. But yes, this does connect all those movies together.
Yeah. She's on the phone, the call drops, and then she's spooked by evil garbage.
Yes, so as a true metaphor for the film, our opening scare involves garbage to let us know what's going to go on.
Yeah.
We have a fake Kayako behind her. And it's the only time we see Kayako, right?
Yep.
That's it. She stands behind her, and her arm comes out of a garbage bag and grabs her leg, which is very similar to a scare in the first direct-to-video film. So yeah, it does steal another gag. And listen, I was okay with Takashi stealing from himself. That was fine. Like, James Cameron can do all the Space Marines he wants. That's his idea. It's fine. Yeah. You know, like, that's one of those things, like, I'm okay with that. If Michael Bay swirls the camera around, sure, it's great. When Peter Berg does it, I'm like, you're a fucking hack.
Yeah.
Stop copying Michael Bay. You know, that's what I'm saying. This one, I wasn't quite as cool with it. It's not a particularly great scare. And I think, the character's name's Allison, right?
Sure.
Sure. Well, she's our new Kayako. It's no reason I mentioned it. So.
The Lester family?
Yeah, the Lester family. So it is important to the plot somewhat. But yes, that she is scared and she is now running away. And she also sets in motion the plot of the original Grudge film. Now
we jump to 2006. A mother confronts her son who misses her dad, and that's Andrea Riseborough.
Yeah, Andrea Riseborough plays Detective Muldoon here.
Yeah.
And she has her son, whose name I didn't write down. That was kind of we were just taking notes like, fuck it. But she has a son, and they recently, her husband, his father,
like 3 months ago.
Cancer?
Mm-hmm.
What it was, he died of cancer a few months back. So they're still reeling from that. Now, I want you to know, this is just like some sympathy window dressing on these characters.
Yeah.
Because we don't really find out anything else really. You know, the movie gives us a few moments between them, but it's not really interested in slowing down for them.
And I knew I was in for it when I saw different hair lengths already in this movie.
Oh, yeah. The kid's hair is...
No, it's the Andre.
Yeah, well, the kid's hair does it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the kid's hair does it too. I was thinking that like in the final sequence. I was like, his hair is like 3 inches longer here. So
yeah,
you could tell they went back and reshot a lot of stuff. But yeah, Riseborough has a wig at some point.
She has long wig.
Yeah, at one point, I think it's probably just her hair.
It's past her shoulders, and then all of a sudden, it's not past her shoulders.
It's not going to get the Gritty Reboot Awful Hair Award or Multiple Hairstyles Award. That would be Kate Mara.
Yeah.
For Fantastic Four, where she has like 3 different hairstyles and the worst fucking blonde wig I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like she just it just fell on her head. Yeah. And they were like, don't change it. It's fine. Just leave it on. But yes, we were introduced to them. And she is our main character, oddly enough.
She's investigating along with others a burned up. Well, what I initially thought was a burned up body in a car, but it's just a body that's been in a car for a
decayed.
long time.
Yeah, I think they've been looking for her for 6 months or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, so she just somebody is driven off the road and died, and they rotted away.
Just looks really old.
Yeah, but what kicks our story into high gear? She has a connection to 44. Well, the address has 44 in it.
44 Rayburn.
Rayburn Drive,
Yeah.
yes. 44 Rayburn Drive, and this is our new Grudge house.
Mm-hmm. I wrote in my notes, so far this movie is very Americanized.
Yeah, very much so. So we do carry like the fragmented storytelling segment.
Mhm.
The one thing you didn't need to transfer over. Like
Yeah.
you could have left that in Japan. That was fine. That was his thing. You didn't need to carry that part over because that doesn't help this movie at all to have like multiple storylines told in a confusing manner.
Yeah, no, it sucks.
Yeah, like it barely worked for the original Grudge movies. It really did. You know, like, not a lot of directors can really pull this off, and it just didn't need an extra thing to kind of help, keep spinning while this movie goes on.
Yeah, I was unclear on a lot of details early on.
Yeah.
Detective Muldoon goes to a creepy house and knocks on the door, and this is the house that's the one that's going to be the focal point in the movie. She gets no answer, and like in every horror movie, she goes
She
inside.
just walks in. She just ignores any kind of police protocol
Mhm.
and just walks into the goddamn house.
Yeah.
Because there's no indication something's wrong. Someone visited a house months ago and they died. There's nothing there. So, but she just goes in anyway. And of course, luckily for her, some spooky shit is going on in there. We are introduced to legendary actress Lynn Shay, and she's playing Faith Matheson here. And she's over there. She's chopping some veggies.
What looks like she's chopping veggies.
Chopping some
She's
veggies.
crying.
Like, I'm a crazy Lynn Shay. So, she's our Detective Muldoon's trying to piece together what's going on. And as she walks around, I believe she notices the rotting corpse
Yeah, of
of her husband. Of her husband, Lorna. That's played by Jackie Weaver, I believe.
Jackie Weaver.
I'm sorry, not Jackie Weaver. I'm sorry. That's played by, I had it written down wrong. Played by Frankie Faison. So he comes in there, and so he has like been rotting away like for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole scene is just really strange to me because like Lynn Shay is like covered in blood when she turns around.
Yeah, and her mouth is covered in blood, so it's implied that she bit off her own fingers.
Yeah,
But
or
it's
she's-
actually not that case. She just cut them off.
Just licking the blood, I guess. It's not real clear. It's not important. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, guys. It's not that important. But it does happen. I do want to mention that is something that occurs in the runtime. But and this whole scene, like Muldoon isn't like particularly like disturbed or in any way concerned.
Yeah.
It's not until she notices the dead body, right?
Yeah.
I wish she would. It's just weird she didn't smell a big ass rotting corpse.
You would have smelled
Yeah,
that.
it's just so weird to me she didn't smell that thing at all. Like the way the whole scene plays out, it's just strange. It doesn't feel like real people
So
at
how
all.
long has Lynn Shay been standing there?
Yeah.
If he's been rotting away, like how long has she just been standing in the kitchen?
She's been fake chopping vegetables, just waiting for a detective to show up
It's
for 6 months.
the time does not make any
No,
sense.
it really doesn't. It really doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't at all because she doesn't know how to take care of
She's
herself.
just been standing there for
Yeah.
months.
So we don't know if new Kayako has been taking care of her, slowly nursing her to health. We have no idea what's been going on in this situation.
Muldoon sees a ghost of a girl in the road, and then she ends up going to her fellow detective's house, and that's where we meet the other detective. And I didn't write his name down.
Wilson? No, I'm sorry. Wilson is Sadler. Detective Goodman.
Goodman, yeah.
Yeah, Detective Goodman.
He tells her about the family that died from the picture she found. The mother killed herself, her daughter, and then her husband.
It's the Landers family. We
Yeah.
have Fiona, Melinda, and Sam Landers.
Yeah, I remembered the child's name, Melinda.
Yeah, the kid's Melinda. She's the new Toshio.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically, I mean, there's no other way to put
Yeah.
it. They're literally just stand-ins, Sam is Takio, technically, and Kayako is Fiona. So that's it, even though Fiona doesn't do anything.
Fiona is the sister of the guy who buys the house with the old woman in the Grudge movie. So that's their tie-in. And that's the only tie-in.
Yeah, pretty much.
We find out, this is what the scene where we find out that Detective Muldoon's husband died of cancer, and that was 3 months ago. And then we go back to 2004 where Betty Gilpin and John Cho, they are getting an ultrasound.
Yeah, so the movie starts to get a little bit of an emotional core. Don't worry, we won't stay here very long.
No.
So Betty Gilpin and John Cho are a couple who, by the way, have fantastic chemistry.
Yeah.
They play off each other so well. They find out that she's pregnant and that she is going to have a baby with, I forget the genital
risk
defect.
for ALD.
ALD. So the risk is incredibly high. The child will have it. It's really devastating news for them. And the way they play it is two people who got bad news that absolutely love each other. And I really love their interactions and everything almost about their story. But the movie just doesn't want to hold on this story for very long.
Yeah, it's the only interesting part of the movie.
Yeah. Like I think I watched another reviewer who mentioned that this should have been the main storyline of the film. And I could not agree with that idea more.
Yeah.
I just don't know why he would pick another police investigation. You know, I don't really know that, but this is the way he chose to go about or tell the story. And it was a poor idea because this storyline does really work. These characters really work well together, and we just don't get enough of it, sadly.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't amount to much. But they are the realtors, sadly, for 44 Rayburn Drive.
Yeah, and on their way back from the doctors, they stop at 44 Rayburn Drive to get some signatures. And this is where he goes into the house. And we get our first scary scene with the daughter, Melinda, is in the tub with her hair straight down in her face.
Yeah.
A creepy way.
Yeah.
And she croaks.
Is that her? I thought that...
she comes out of the tub.
I thought that was the mom that comes out of the tub.
No, I don't think so.
Is it not the mom?
I thought it was the child, Melinda, because Melinda's the one that gets drowned in the tub.
Maybe so. Well, I guess
it's not clear.
Yeah, I guess if we're not real certain, because we've seen this shot multiple times, and I've always thought it was the mother.
I thought it was Melinda.
Well, you know what? It's not that big a deal, guys. It's not that big a deal. The movie, it's not hurting the lore. It's not going to get answered in the sequel who it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically it. Like a grudge ghost that is unidentified to us comes up and just makes it has to be the mom because it makes noise.
Makes the croak noise.
Yeah, it makes the croak noise. It makes the croak noise.
Okay.
Yeah, so it has to be her because the husband and the mom can make the croak noise technically.
I thought the daughter could too.
No, she can't because she didn't have her windpipe broken.
But she had her nose broken.
Yeah, but that doesn't make you make a croak noise.
Oh.
Yeah. See, you have to have your windpipe broken in some way.
Whatever, dude.
I'm giving you the rules of the movie. All right, I've had to watch this piece of shit technically more than once. All right, so I'm letting you know what I've learned in my discoveries.
All right.
So there we go. It was the mom, but either way, she comes up for just a little scare. It provides a little bit of tension, but he can't get anything from it. So
we go back to Betty Gilpin and John Cho, and they're upset about their baby.
And they have a nice little scene, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'll
He takes a shower, and there's that finger thing that comes out of his head.
So once again, we're repeating a scare from the first movie.
It's like in every movie.
Yeah, it's been in 3 of these movies already. So this is the worst it's done because we know it's coming. It was the gag in all the trailers, and once again, I don't think this is really the signature scare of the series. So I don't know why.
It is apparently.
Yeah, well, I can understand why he did it again in the other movie in the remake because her character was like that other one, so we might as well do that scare, and people liked it. So it's just a strange thing why it has to happen again, but it does. It doesn't help anything. It's just more groan worthy. Just you think of a better movie. That's all.
There's a shot of both of them asleep, and there's a green light that wakes up the pregnant woman, Betty Gilpin. And she sees a dead woman ghost. And then we get a shot of John Cho going back to the house where he rings the doorbell.
Did she see the ghost? I thought he did. No, she hasn't been in the house. She can't see shit.
I thought, well.
Yeah, how would he see anything? No, it was, he sees the ghost and because she's pulling at the sheets, I think. And he's pulling him back up. He's like, what's down there? And then the mother, Allison? I already forgot her name. Stands up. A new Kayako.
Faith.
Whatever. We're gonna find out it's like Sue. Fiona. We're not even close.
This movie was just terrible, guys.
All right, this show's off the rails. Okay, so Fiona just kind of stands above him. He's like, "Oh God!" And he turns on the light, and she's obviously not there when the light's on, and it's great because he's terrified. And his pregnant wife is like, "Turn off the light. I can't sleep." It's my favorite moment of all the scares in the movie because he's terrified, but she has no knowledge that this event just occurred.
I didn't write any of it down, so that stuff just went past me.
That is the only thing that made me like kind of chuckle and smile as it occurred. She's just like, turn the light off, I'm trying to sleep without understanding her husband is just literally like terrified beyond belief. Continue. Nothing will happen that I like for another 30 minutes.
So John Cho goes back to the house. He rings the doorbell. A little girl comes to the door and her nose starts to bleed, and it's Melinda.
Yeah, and since John Cho's a good dude, he goes in there and tries to take care of her. This is obviously very similar to the storyline in the direct-to-video film with the teacher. That is very similar to the American remake storyline with Bill Pullman, where he goes in the house to help the kid.
Now we're back with the detective.
Yeah, we just abandoned the story.
She gets forced into the water and almost drowns.
She's an Olympic swimmer, and the pool cover is closed over her for the night, and she will not be able to get out. Is that not what occurred?
No.
That's a completely different. That's a real movie, by the way. That's a real movie. I saw that the other day. A movie about just two girls trapped in a swimming pool over a weekend.
Wow.
It's probably riveting. I talk shit about that one movie with the guy stuck on the ski lift, but I actually kind of like that one. Frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go, baby. Anyway, no. So she's just like in her house, just generally creeped out, and she's looking in the mirror, and one of the ghosts forced her head in the sink of all things.
Yeah.
And when she pushed her head down, I was like, man, good thing she didn't catch her face on the faucet, right?
Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought. Like, a sink's not very deep, right? What if she just ate like a face full of
Porcelain.
porcelain? Yeah. Thank you. I did. Good job. I did not. I completely forgot what sinks were made of at that moment in time, and you saved me. But no, I mean that's it. You know, she comes in and she comes out of the water. She's like, oh well.
Well, there's nobody there. Big no big
I mean,
deal.
she's like a Metal Gear Solid, a bad guy. You know, his friend just got killed next to him. Goes, oh no, where is it? Oh, the timer went off. Like, oh, well, it's probably nothing. Do. She has the same reaction. I mean, Riseborough's a fantastic actress. Obviously, there was something in the character and the direction that got missing somewhere, because these just reactions are baffling, right?
Mhm.
Makes it feel like it's almost sort of a parody at times,
Mm-hmm.
like you're watching a weird David Lynch film.
Yeah.
Like, just people just don't react to scares properly unless it's a jump scare.
It's just
It's very strange. It's very strange.
bad directing.
Yeah, I think that's basically it.
And we jump around again. We're back in 2005.
We're back in 2005. We're at a Nickelback concert. We are. Oh no,
No, we're with a woman who specializes in aiding in suicide. Home suicide.
Yeah, so this is Jackie Weaver. Sorry,
Jackie Weaver.
This is what I get when I don't take proper notes. I watched it. I was like, I'm not taking notes on this bitch. So she comes in here, and by the way, my favorite scene in this movie is here, except it's on the cutting room floor. So Jackie Weaver initially comes in and she talks to Lynn Shay and her husband, and there's a really fantastic scene here on the deleted scenes where he talks about wanting to end his wife's life because her dementia is setting in, and they have a couple flashbacks, and one is a sweet scene between the two of them where she's talking like, there are things I never ever want to forget, and I don't want to go down that way. I want to remember all these things that I love before I die. It's a nice sequence between the two of them. And then we have a little bit more that was cut where you see the first attempt he made to try to help her commit suicide, and it was a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an absolute disaster, and that's why they need someone like this to come in. It immediately made me identify and sympathize with these characters. And I felt something for them I didn't feel in the theatrical cut, which I felt horrible for what occurs. That's the whole point of these movies. I should feel bad you're cursed. I should
Yeah.
just be indifferent to the situation. And that is a rough cut to lose, you know, because it adds so much to this movie and those two characters in a really brief amount of time. It's one of the film's best written and best directed scenes, and nobody's ever going to see it.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention it here because this scene is just pointless and gets the story across at the base amount, which is that his wife has dementia, she needs to die, and they go upstairs and she discovers that the wife is playing peekaboo by herself, like in the original Ju-on film.
Yeah.
And that we repeat another scare, and there's not a whole lot to it really. We don't even see a reflection of the girl, right?
No.
There's no scare for us. It's just a reference. That's just a reference.
Yeah.
So, just saying.
But we do see her. We do see her in one scene.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Do we? Because usually the scare is always done in the reflection, like in the background. It's not like a full scare, right?
Yeah.
That's how it's done in Ju-on and how it's done in The Grudge 2. Because they do the same scare in The Grudge 2 with Amber Tamblyn.
The guy and
Bus.
Jackie Weaver are talking, and she's in the background.
Okay.
Well, she decides that she doesn't want to do the process because her wife is crazy, and she's talking to somebody who isn't there.
Yeah, it does make her look completely insane. So I can understand her hesitation.
But she feels a little bad about the situation, so she decides she wants to stay for a couple of days.
Yeah, and that's basically all it is. She's just like, I need to stay here because, well, we got to get to a third act, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, she's like, well, I can't leave just yet because we can't come up with a story reason for me to stay. So I'm just going to decide to hang out.
There's not a whole lot of in the fridge, so she offers to go to the store and get some stuff for dinner.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, cool. So she goes to
He's
the
like,
store.
cool, Holmes. Go to the store, get it done.
And she goes to the meat counter, and it looks like there's like flies all over the meat.
The curse is already setting in.
Yeah. And then she
followed her to the Piggly Wiggly.
She thinks that she sees a little girl hold her hand.
Yeah. And she's in the background behind her and stuff like that. You can see the new Grudge ghosts. And by the way, like the Grudge ghosts, I mean, I have to mention, they just look like people.
Mm-hmm.
There's, other than hair over their face, there's nothing to differentiate them from anyone else walking around. So it doesn't necessarily provide the best imagery.
We get a shot of Melinda, the ghost girl, in the car with her. Mm-hmm. And then when she gets back home, or when she gets back to the house, she sees a man standing outside in the rain. And
it's our other detective in the movie, and this is played by William Sanderson of Die Hard 2 fame.
Mm-hmm.
William Sadler, pardon me, of Die Hard 2 fame. Not Sanderson, that's somebody else. William Sadler, he also played Death in the amazing Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. I didn't want to mention that. He's a fun character actor. He plays Detective Wilson here. He is the motherfucker who is going to explain the plot to us.
Yeah.
That is his sole purpose in this film, is to let everyone know that there were other movies, they're connected, and I know how. That's his whole purpose as a character. But continue on. He's standing outside the house like a fucking weirdo.
Yeah. The owner of the house calls a cop and says and the cop is like, is he out there? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I'll be right over. And that detective is Detective Wilson, I believe. Is he what you
Yeah, Detective Wilson.
Wilson.
Yeah. The scene that follows isn't that bad, where Jackie Weaver is just like, wow, that's so weird. A case. I hope it wasn't a murder case. And the husband completely no-sells her question. Yeah. And she's like, oh, God, it was. The most genuine moment left in the original cut.
Yeah.
Like, it's just one of those like, oh. Like, just well played. Once again, the acting is really good in this. It really is. It's really good. These guys deserved a lot better than what they got.
The detective comes over and picks him up. And while they're riding in the car, he shoots himself in the head.
Yeah, now, shoots on the head and he misses.
Yeah.
He blows out like the side of his cheek, which should have killed his partner because that's the side he was on. But that's neither here nor there.
Mm-hmm.
But the house has driven him insane and does not kill him for reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea why those spirits have left him alive. And the movie doesn't really care to give us an explanation about why.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention, like the Grudge just waits just so we can have Andre Riseborough's character, Detective Muldoon, go and meet him in the future storyline. There is no other reason that the Grudge left him alone. It's some of the laziest writing I could really think of. And I mean, these aren't necessarily, I watched the third film, guys. These aren't great. I watched the Japanese sequels. They suck. They have nothing to do with Kayako and Toshio or any of that stuff. They're terrible. And this is by far the worst of this franchise.
Yeah, it's a bad movie.
Yeah, I really, with the money behind it too and the talent, what a waste. I'm sorry, continue on. Well, I can't just shit on this whole thing. Let's continue on.
We're back with Detective Muldoon and her dog Frank. That's one of the characteristics of her character that we get. She has a dog, Frank.
She likes to give her pets human names. And nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with a cat named Bob, a dog named Frank. I like that. Frank's the best character in this movie.
Our cat's named Tebow.
He's named after a person, though. Like, he's like,
yeah,
a little different.
People are going to think we're like really big Tim Tebow fans.
Yeah, it was just a joke.
Anyways.
A joke that's now 12 years past expiration.
I know. Poor Tebow.
Yeah, I know.
She goes to see Detective Wilson at the psych ward.
Yeah, so this is where all that pays off. She goes over there and she meets him. And it's a typical meeting the crazy guy kind of haunting scene.
He's severely disfigured.
Yeah.
Super crazy.
I want to compare this to a better movie, which is probably not something I should do. But Smile has a scene that's very similar to this, right?
Ooh, but better.
Yeah, where there's a moment in that movie where he's talking to her and he looks at her like, you're cursed too. You brought it here. Like when it just dawns on him, like the pure fear that he's like, I came here to get away from it. You brought it back. And this scene is just like, okay, here's the story. Yeah. And we go into a flashback of him narrating tapes. we see a flashback of him narrating things that happened in the past.
Yeah.
It is the worst. It should have been him narrating over the events of the past. So instead, we see him in a closet, narrating into a tape recorder, talking about what a Ju-on is and name dropping other characters in the series to make sure you know this movie ties in. And it's technically a requel, not a true reboot, but fuck off. I don't know why, but it does this whole bit and it doesn't lead to anything. The audience who's going to come in, which are Grudge fans, already know all of this. So this is pointless to us. We're just rehashing old bullshit. And it leads to him just gouging his eyes out, right?
Yes, he gouges out his own eyes because
I can't stand to see them anymore. I can still tell they're haunting me. Oh, of course they are, you fucking idiot. You just explained to us how the curse works. You know that wouldn't work. You know that. You just told us why it wouldn't work.
It's just super dumb exposition.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another thing to really hate. Like I said, the deleted scenes would have helped, but it wouldn't have made this a 10 out of 10. It just might have made it a 5.
We jump to Detective Wilson making the tapes.
Yeah, like we
jump again to Detective Muldoon. She's searching in the dark for who knows.
So yeah, and after this, we start getting more Muldoon hauntings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And none of these are particularly well done or well shot.
It's a good opportunity for a cheap scare.
Yeah, that's all. We just get a bunch of jump scares. Like I said, the imagery with these ghosts just isn't particularly scary at all or memorable. So it's really tough to get a scare. Like when Sam Landers, is coming at her in like the backyard, like we get the Grudge noise and we get the death rattle and we get the spike in the music, but there's no terror or fear at all. It's just a guy walking towards her.
Yeah.
All that haunting element's completely gone by the cinematography and the, oh, you know what? Let's talk about, before we move on, let's talk about color grading.
Okay. What do you know about it?
This movie has some of the most egregious color grading I've ever seen. Like everything is pushed as teal and orange as far as it really can. Like this is just such an example of like poor color grading. And what color grading is when you shoot a movie now, it almost comes to you almost black and white. It's desaturated, completely devoid of color. And then you increase the saturation. I'm simplifying this, guys. And you punch different colors and you increase hues and shades to give yourself a look that you're going for. A LUT, if you will. That's what it's known. And this movie has like dark, punchy, cheap LUT look. Like you can buy all these sorts of LUTs from YouTubers who are like, I know the way to make your movie look just like, the Avengers or whatever like that. And then you buy it and it just adds a weird filter on your thing. That's similar, I guess. But like, that's what this looks like. It looks like they put a cheap filter on this movie to try to give it some more darkness, a little edge. And it's just so goddamn distracting. Like the movie is just pure contrast, right? Like it's just like they just put that contrast slider all the way to 100 to like give this movie some kind of style, which it does not have in the directing. Things are hard to see and it's ugly. It's an ugly film. I would prefer the bland cinematography of the 2004 film. I would take the direct-to-video cinematography of the original Ju-on film as opposed to what this movie tries to pass off as acceptable Hollywood cinematography.
Yeah.
It's abysmal, and the color grading only makes it just worse. And because that kind of look is so dated, it makes the movie look even worse. It really does. Like at one point, it might have been kind of stylish, but it's like if you have wood paneling on your car or something like that. It's just a relic from a bygone era.
Yeah.
When we first started doing color grading. It's awful. And I just wanted to mention it here because it really deserves to get brought up. Another terrible thing in this film.
Aren't you glad we didn't buy that wood paneled house?
You know what? We should have bought all the wood paneling on the houses, left it up, restored it.
We could be the one to bring it back.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, I'll start putting wood paneling on my truck.
Wow.
Yeah.
We go through all that. She looks crazy because she's seeing things and blah, 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 because it doesn't matter.
That's the official synopsis, by the way.
We're back with John Cho and Betty Gilpin. He's still at the house with the girl and Betty's at home.
He's been chilling this whole time there. I know we're doing time jumps and stuff like that. We're not even doing interesting time jumps like the rest of the series.
Yeah.
We're just jumping time for no reason. But yeah, he's just chilling out there with the little girl. He gets a call from her and they have a sweet moment, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I'll love that baby no matter what. And I love you too.
Yeah.
And they cry together on the phone. It's beautiful. It really is. They have good chemistry. That works.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Grudge scare occurs.
The doorbell rings and he lets her go. He goes downstairs and looks through the people and it's the ghost woman.
Yeah, she has her hair covering her face.
He opens the door and nobody's there.
There's nothing there. So it's very similar to a scare in the last two remakes. That's all.
He goes back inside and Melinda is missing. And he hears footsteps upstairs. He goes into a bathroom and there's some nasty water in the tub because he's like recoiled because of the smell.
And this is another scare from the original remake.
And the ghost child shows up and
Emerges
grabs
and
his
scares
head.
him. Yeah.
He runs out, and then when he
Jump
goes
scare.
down the stair, there's Ghost Mama.
So I want to mention here again that this is awful.
Mhm.
This is a retread of the original film, and there's no tension in the way the scare is done at all. It's like they are in a rush to get out of that house, right? Like there's no build up to anything. Like there's the tiniest bit of build up to seeing like her in the peephole, but once that moment is gone, we're just sort of rushing from what should be a scary moment to another scary moment. And in the deleted scenes, there is a much slower paced, tenser sequence where he walks around the house and discovers everything that he would need to know about the curse. Because John Cho hears a noise up in the attic, and he slowly goes up there to check it out, and he finds the Landers family upstairs, decomposing and everything like that. And he goes to grab the child, Melinda, right?
Mhm.
And when he gets there, she has all these creepy drawings and stuff like that. And he sees out what the events of the movie is what she's drawing, basically. And once again, this sequence isn't amazing, but it is just a much better version of what we got in the final film. And it's really baffling, again, that they chose to go with the shorter, inferior sequence. It does end with the same jump scare, but it had the mother, Fiona, chasing him.
Mhm.
So when he's terrified that she's in front of him, it makes a lot more sense in that version.
Yeah, we missed that completely.
Yeah, because in the new version, he's running forward. You know, he's not looking backwards at all. He's just running straight forward, and someone in front of him just appears, and he's scared.
Yeah.
When the other one, he's like, she's coming right behind me, and he turns at the last second to see her, and that's how a scare works.
Yeah.
That's how movie jump scares work. You can't have somebody look in that direction like we are, and then something's just there.
Yeah.
You know, you want to misdirect a little. And they took all that away. And once again, it doesn't make it a 10 out of 10, but maybe makes the movie watchable.
Mm-hmm.
But we never know.
Explain some things. at
Yeah,
least.
exactly. We'll never know. We get an inferior version, and it is what it is.
All that stuff happens. That's, whatever. And John Cho is back at the house, and he has scissors in his hands.
Yeah, he has a quick confrontation with his wife where she realizes something is off about him. He is clearly possessed, as we've seen in the other movies, and we don't get really anything out of the sequence other than he rushes at her,
Mhm.
and immediately, as he does like a ghost rush towards her, we cut to her face down,
Yeah.
dead, blood all over the kitchen floor.
And he's drowned in the tub.
Yeah,
of
his
shit.
face in the tub. So they fall victim to the curse and doesn't get a great payoff, I think. To not have a scene of her begging for her life, trying to get her husband out of there, is such a missed opportunity. To try to not have her in that moment of horror, trying to protect her unborn child against the man that she loves turned against her.
Mhm.
To know that they didn't even think about shooting a scene like that
I know.
is embarrassing. I mean, that's why you make a movie like this, to scare people. And a man trying to kill his wife who's 9 months pregnant is terrifying. Those are the things people have nightmares about, and the movie sidesteps it like the fucking plague.
Yeah.
So we don't get much out of it besides a cool jump cut where she's dead. That's a nice cut. I'll give it that. But I'd have preferred a scare with emotion behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't get that. I get this.
This was
garbage
rated
instead.
PG-13, right?
It may have been. I mean, I wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised.
because it doesn't even try to explore any kind of violence like that.
I mean, you can do darkness in PG-13. I mean, you can do that in dialogue without profanity. There's always ways to get around something. This movie just took the cheapest, laziest way to get to this point. Like, this movie just focused on the wrong things. It loved this detective storyline for some reason.
My next note. We jump to Crazy Lady, Death Woman, and Sad Dude.
Oh, man, I've just got to give you like a list of character names before we start these movies. Actually, I prefer these now that we're into this movie. It only matters when we're doing Tom Clancy movies where you're like, some guy passes away. You mean the Russian president? That's important to plot details.
We're back with Lin Shaye and her husband and the lady that comes by to do the suicide.
Jackie Weaver's
Jackie Weaver's
It's not
character.
important. It's not important.
She gets up and wanders around the house. She finds Lin Shaye and she has a ghost figure over her. dripping.
So this is the scare that is in all the movies with the Arroyo
Yeah.
slowly descending over a victim suffering from dementia.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the first Ju-on theatrical, the remake, and this one. And this is the least inspiring way it could have been shot.
Cheap as fuck.
Yeah, it's literally just, she pops up on screen with a jump scare and drips a little fluid on Lin
Yeah.
Shaye. It is masterfully done in the other two movies. And this is like the most direct-to-video cheap way it could be done. At that moment, I looked at you and said, that's the problem with this movie has no scary imagery at all. Not a
Mhm.
single terrifying image is in this movie. It's just the lamest way it could have possibly have been done.
We get a kind of cool shot with the husband, and he explains to her because she's real shaken.
Yeah, clearly, as you would be.
And he's like, basically, I deal with the ghost because I hope that one day my wife is a ghost and she haunts me.
Yeah, he's like, the walls between our world and the next are softer here. That gives me comfort, you know?
Mhm.
And he said that, and I was like, I completely
Get it.
understand
Yep.
why you would stay here.
Yeah.
It might be scary, but you just don't understand. I'm scared of that thing, but when it's my wife, I'll know it's okay.
Yeah.
I'll know it's okay to go over. And makes me feel bad for him.
Yeah.
It's not where he was. He was in a curse. That's where the Grudge should hit hard. It really should.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those sorts of good people. You know, that's when we'll talk about it when we get to the show.
Yeah.
Because that's what that's about. Good people who get struck. Not even good, just people.
Mm-hmm.
Just people living their lives. Sure, you cheat on your wife or do stupid shit. You don't deserve a fucking curse to terrify you till you fucking die.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue on. Sorry.
She wakes up the next morning and she sees the crazy woman. She's up chopping something.
Lin Shaye.
Yeah, Lin Shaye. She has killed her husband with a fork.
Yeah, we see his boots on the ground, and
And chopped
Jackie
off her own
Weaver
fingers.
kind of turns a little bit and sees he's got a fork in the neck, and she has begun her NPC programming to chop her fingers.
Yeah.
She will be doing this action for 8 hours
For
a day
8 months.
for months until the detective shows up to stop her. But at some point, she will lift her gigantic husband and put him in the chair for theatrical
I
effect.
know.
Yeah,
She's
because
a sickly woman.
yeah,
and she,
Lin Shaye is, and even if Lin Shaye was 20, she's only 5'2".
she puts him in the chair. It doesn't make any sense.
What's his face? Frankie Faison. He's 6'4". He's a big guy. He's the orderly from Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Probably his most famous role, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a character actor in a bunch of
a
stuff.
lot of
but
stuff.
If you, for our audience, if you look for a horror movie, that's probably the most famous one he's been.
Yeah.
So he's dead. She runs out of there. Jackie Weaver runs out of there terrified while Lin Shaye is laughing. And she gets in her car and
She's killed in an accident.
no. She isn't killed. She dies in an accident. Because the Grudge doesn't kill her. It just distracts her while she's driving.
Mm-hmm.
And she runs off the road. That Grudge didn't kill a thing. She doesn't deserve to be haunted by the Grudge or stuck there in death because she died from a traffic collision.
Yeah, she's the body that the detectives find in the beginning.
Yeah,
of the movie.
she's the one from the intro.
And then I wrote Miss Matheson's crazy lady is just running around unrestrained after killing her husband. She climbs the stairs and goes over the railing, killing herself.
So here's my issue with this scene. Listen. Okay.
She's just wandering around
Yeah.
this mental facility.
Exactly.
She
She just killed her husband. She just killed her husband.
Yeah, so
she tried to
dangerous.
assault the detective.
Yeah.
She is she chopped off her own fingers. Not only is she a threat to you, she's a threat to herself.
Mhm.
She should be on medication and restrained.
Mhm.
And she's rolling around the hospital where everyone's like, "Hey, how you doing? Good to see
Hey,
you."
Mrs. Matheson.
Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And we know no time has passed, right?
no, because
because
her
she's-
hand's still.
Yeah, her
bound.
hand is still bandaged. Yeah, it's not healed or just like cut. Her hand is healing. So they only just fixed it. And so she rolls around the hospital, sees the ghost of the girl, and just kills herself, dives over the edge.
Yeah.
It's completely ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
It's so lazy. It is the laziest thing in a lazy film.
Then there's a flashback of all flashbacks of stuff we've already seen. It's just more flashbacks.
Are you talking about where we see the how the Grudge thing was made?
Yes.
By the way, we have deleted scenes. This was a whole storyline.
Mhm.
They had a whole story about, real scene shot about the curse developing with the original family, the Lester family. And they just chopped that down to 30 seconds of
Yeah.
flashback and quick cuts. And it's not great. And it's stupid. We find out the husband fell while,
Hit every step on the way. down.
fighting his wife, and he broke his neck, and he makes the croak. The wife cuts her own throat, which is a reshoot, apparently, so she can make the croak noise. Because that is not in the deleted scene. She dies
Mhm.
another way, I do believe.
Mhm.
But in theatrical, she cuts her throat just so they can loop the croaking noise underneath her. That's my theory on that. I think they made that decision in editing so they could do that shit. Because the shot doesn't look like it matches.
You're probably right.
But like I can't remember how it goes, but she dies another way and deleted the scenes. Another point to the hack job that this movie got.
We're back with Detective Muldoon, where she hears something and walks around with a gun.
This in the police station?
Yeah. What are we doing here?
So yeah, this is just a scare where she thinks she feels Sam Linder's coming after her.
She gonna shoot a ghost?
And yeah, exactly. And listen, if she believes what's going on, she knows her bullets aren't going to do a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so she goes to the videotape and she can see Sam Landers is there and he's chasing her. And so she's walking around with her gun and she pulls her gun on another active detective who's like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
As is proper. You should not have your gun out in that situation. And she knows that. And so she's like, I got him on tape. Sam Landers is here. And of course, there's nothing on the tape. Oh, God. It's not a real surprise. Tells her to go home because she's burnt out.
A lot of cheap scares.
Yeah, just the cheap scares and a very cliche scene.
At 4:44.
Remember the first movie where like the Grudge walked towards the camera, Kayako, and it was that black shadow and it was a great scene?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing as cool or creative as that even thought about in this movie.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'm sorry. It's 4:44.
4:44. And she calls Detective Wilson and he comes over.
Yeah, and they do more chatting about Grudge bullshit and he takes care of the kid.
Yeah. But then he doesn't take care of the kid because she takes him with her to burn down
There
the
was
house.
a scene earlier where he did babysit the kid while she did the investigation. She takes him to a cursed house and tells him to wait inside. And he is only there for one reason and one reason only. So we can have a little clever moment for the character, I guess.
For the ghost.
In 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's going to go in there and burn down the house because that's what William Sadler's character told her to do.
We get more flashbacks.
Yeah, there's more flashbacks in here. We see all the kind of stuff that happened in the house. And she doesn't care. She's throwing the gasoline and shit everywhere. And as she's doing it, she turns around. Her son is right there.
Yeah. She's like, what the hell are you doing in here? I told you to stay outside.
Exactly.
And smacks him in the face.
And a better way for it to go. But she's like, are you scared? What do we do when we're scared? So this whole movie, we had this, what do we do when we're scared bitch shoved in. And like you can see it coming a mile away because in one of the opening scenes, she goes up to him and goes, "What do you say when we're scared?" And they go through the whole bit. And later on, when she's terrified by the Grudge ghost, her son does the same thing back to her. It's a decent little scene, but you can see where it's leading to.
Mm-hmm.
So here it is. This moment, she goes, "What do we do when we're scared?" And because it's the Grudge, it doesn't know.
Yeah.
And she realizes it immediately and throws the Zippo and burns the house down. It runs out.
It ends at her house. She hugs her son.
Yeah.
She thinks her son, but it's not.
Yeah, she's hugging her son. She's like, it's all over. And in the background, her son actually walks back. I'm going to school, Mom. Bye. And walks out the door. And she is dragged off and killed by the Grudge because you can't kill the house doesn't do anything. You have to kill the ghost.
Yeah.
Or exorcise the ghost. Which no one does in these movies.
Nobody does.
Well, actually, somebody did in the third movie.
Mm.
They do exorcise the ghost. They do free Kayako from her prison. But sadly, the person who did it was still cursed.
All right, some trivia for you. Faith Matheson at one point plays peekaboo with Melinda on an unseen ghost. An intentional homage to Saito, a man with dementia who played peekaboo with Toshio in Ju-on the Grudge 2002.
Yeah, once again, it's one in that movie, and there's one in The Grudge too, so it's the same scare.
The house number in this film is 44, a reference to the original Ju-on short film 44444444444, 1998. 4 is also a number of bad luck in Japanese culture due to the number in Japanese specifically being a homophone for the character, she, which means death. A homophone, in case you didn't know, is each of a set of symbols denoting the same sound or a group of sounds.
And they hate gay people? That's pretty impressive.
Wow.
Is that too far?
This is the final film of Stephanie, the therapist, Shirk. Her name was Stephanie Shirk. She died on April 19th, 2019 of suicide. She was married to Damian Bircher, who played the detective Wilson, her co-star.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bummer.
Right? Scenes in the trailer that didn't make this cut. Hair emerging from the bathtub drain. Fiona as a ghost crawling under Burke's bed. Fiona sawing off Sam's head. And Fiona's ghost crawling across the wall behind Detective Muldoon. So those are the scenes that were cut.
Yeah, but I only ripped the audio from the trailer. I didn't actually watch the trailer.
For the theatrical release, the posters displayed outside the theaters were decorated with black hair extensions, which I thought was kind of cool.
That is neat. I like that.
Yeah. This movie received an F cinema score, the worst possible score,
That's not great.
which is very rare.
Yeah, it's
Only
tough to do
20 other feature films have ever received an F score.
that. This is the worst movie we've covered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the worst movie we've covered on here.
This film includes 3 Oscar nominees. Can you guess them?
Andre Riseborough.
Mm-hmm.
I know that one. Let's see, who else? Lin Shaye?
No.
I knew one Lin Shaye. Jackie Weaver?
Yeah. One more. It's a dude.
It's a dude.
He plays a detective.
It's not Sadler?
No.
It's not Sadler. It was the other detective? The main guy?
Damien Berger, yeah.
What the fuck he got an Oscar nomination for?
I don't know.
All right, what? Not knowing who the fuck he is, huh?
Last fact I have for you, and you might like this one because you like stuff like this. This is the first Grudge movie to be filmed in Panavision for the widescreen 2.39 to 1 aspect ratio, unlike the previous Grudge movies, which were filmed in the taller 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio.
Oh, so in scope?
Yeah.
It doesn't really help. So, yeah.
Fascinating facts.
This is the worst movie we've covered. This is a 1 from me.
Yeah, the facts weren't even good.
Yeah, this is a 1 for me. It's really pointless. It's dull. It's forgettable. So there's nothing to really recommend at all. It's truly the most worthless film that we've covered. If you like it, that's great. But I mean, I don't. I don't see how
you
despise this
could.
movie, and I can't recommend it to anyone at all
Yeah.
in any way. So that's why it's a 1.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I think I agree.
I thought Rings was going to end up being the worst reboot that we cover, and it might be, but man, I really did not like this movie. I really did not. And having with the deleted scenes, going back and basically watching it a second time was just almost torture. I mean, it really was. Like I had to take my phone and like put it in the freezer. So I would like just to pay attention to the things I wanted to see where the deleted scenes fit in, because this movie just begs for you to fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
It really is that bad. So I don't recommend it at all.
Yeah, it was hard getting myself psyched to watch the movie. And then we watched it and it was just as bad as we thought it would be.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you ready to talk about...
We're at 1 hour and 10.
Well, great. We won't take very much longer.
Yeah, we were at 1 hour and 10 minutes. Whew. All right. I couldn't believe that we're that deep into it. All right, can you give me the lead in again?
Okay, so are you ready to talk about something that we both were surprised by in the new miniseries Ju-on Origins?
あの家に住んでたのは夫婦2人でしたよね。私見たんです。2階にもう一人いるの。
この前俺変な家行っちゃったんだ。
So, Ju-on Origins is exactly what we have wanted from a reboot for a long time.
Yeah, it's gritty as fuck.
Yeah, it is gritty, certainly, and that's one thing that is always very helpful. But this is a reboot about the things that I think are really scary.
Mm-hmm.
And from the scariest element of this whole idea is the fact that you are cursed. It's not about the jump scares. It's the fact that the grudge is coming.
Mm-hmm. No matter what.
There's nothing you can do. It's going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're William Sadler.
Or have lived in that house before, apparently. 'Cause
Yeah.
It doesn't kill the psychic.
Yeah. This series is not necessarily connected to the other movies. This is about the hauntings that sort of, or the real cases that sort of inspired
The
the
curse,
Ju-on to
yeah.
be written, basically, the
Mhm.
movie to be made. So it's about a lot of real things that occurred. Now, obviously, it's not a real, true story, but it is based off a lot of real crimes. And
Yes.
things like that. There's a lot of elements of real tragedy that are weaved in this. And this is a truly haunting show.
Mm-hmm.
Imagery that's going to stick with me for a while. Now, this is a show, so we're not going to go down the plot because we'll be here another 6 hours.
Yeah.
For 2 reasons. One, the plot's pretty dense
Mm-hmm.
for 30-minute episodes. It really is. There's a lot that you need to keep track of. And not everything's made clear, which is fine. I don't need everything explained to me.
Things jump around, but you're still able to follow the track.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I just don't get that upset in a movie to where not everything has to be literal. Not everything has to have an answer. It's not that big a deal at the end of the day. The more you answer for me, like the more chance my eyes could glaze over or they could roll at a bad concept.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie just answers just enough and this show does just enough to keep my interest. This really is the best of the series.
It's the absolute best.
There's a couple scenes I want to point out, but I want to talk about what I complained about before. And I thought about this in the John Cho, Betty Gilpin storyline when I saw that movie, is that there wasn't more to that. Now, I understand the movie needed to be PG-13, but that's whatever. But this movie has a very similar story with a pregnant woman.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of that, we do get a very grisly sequence of the Grudge turning both of them into killers, basically. A fight to the death, and a man murders his wife.
Yeah.
And cuts the baby out of her stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And in a macabre scene, runs around with a premature baby around Tokyo to try to give him to his proper father.
Yeah, because it's not even formed yet. Because she's clearly like 8 months pregnant.
Yeah, early 8 months.
So you can tell like when it cries, it doesn't cry like a normal baby.
Yeah.
So it's very haunting.
Yeah, it's very disturbing. Very disturbing. And as he makes it to the house he wants to, the baby dies and he has to bury it. And an episode later, as he's in prison for this act of killing the child and killing the woman, the Onryo comes for him, his wife, and the fetus, the child. And maybe one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen is the baby Onryo coming for him.
Yeah.
And his screams and shrieks as the Onryo slides down his throat and chokes him to death.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's horrifying. It truly is. And I mean, it's one of the things like I will never forget.
No.
And
the sound that baby made.
And it's something that this show does quite well, honestly, like just scaring me. And that's something that's truly impressive.
And it's not just like about jump scares and sudden rising music.
There's not even any jump scares in it. There's some rising music at times, but there's not even real jump scares.
It's just about real life horror.
Yeah.
Things that you would deal with in society. And it's not just that things that are in Japanese culture. It's things that are in American culture as well.
Yeah. And it's like I talked about earlier, like the feel of that curse and the perversion of the normal, making people who are good to people who aren't killers go and slaughter their loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's truly horrifying the way you see it continue through the series, the way the Grudge just twists people from an innocent girl who is raped at the house to watching her descent of her forcing someone to kill her mother and all the horrible things that she does, while on the influence of the curse.
That is shocking because she gets raped and she goes with her rapist.
Yeah.
And tries to have a life with him.
Yeah.
Like has a son and everything. Yeah. And he just ends up beating the fuck out of her all the time.
Yeah. And he ends up eventually putting his son as well into a vegetative state.
Coma.
Yeah. He hits him with a phone, which is important. We forgot to mention that earlier with the pregnant woman. When he sews her back up, he puts a phone inside of her. So the phone is very significant in this series. There's lots of other things in this series that I'll mention, but I mean, it's just, you really need to watch it. You just need to. I mean, I know I mentioned the scene with the baby. That's a spoiler, but trust me, there ain't nothing I could say that prepares you for the imagery of it.
Mm-mm.
So, and trust me, I think there's another better scare in it. With that time jump and the black figure. I think that's a better scare in my opinion. And the show's just full of it. There's just such rewards for a horror fan and a fan of this series. And honestly, if you like true crime as well, that's a real benefit to this show. It's incredibly well acted, and if you even struggle with subtitles, it has an excellent dub track on Netflix.
Yeah, and it's got some real style to it.
Yeah, it really does. They, whatever Netflix budget or whatever Japanese production helped as well on their side, they really did a fantastic job. Great use of of money on this. The episodes were shorter, but they didn't need to be any longer. It's about quality, not quantity. It really is.
Yeah, there were a lot of these characters. They were fleshed out. You knew who each person was. You knew their motivations, why they did things the way they did things. I mean, what more could you say? Just complete antithesis of the Grudge.
It's what you want in a horror movie. Like, just because a horror movie doesn't mean it has to have bad writing. If you give us good 3-dimensional characters that do logical things, we're gonna really care when bad things happen to them. We're not gonna want them to get murdered by Jason or a Grudge or a monster or anything like that. We're gonna root for them, even if they're bad people. Like, they can still be developed characters, and we still want to see what happens to them. And that's what this show has in spades, good writing.
The show also gives Easter eggs to murderinos out there that like murder cases and like to follow stuff like that.
Yeah, it's all over it.
Yeah, there's real cases in the news stories that pop up on the TV.
There's a lot going on in this show, and it's a shame it's 3 years old. We're not getting any more.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to have seen more, but as it is, these 6 episodes are a true horror masterclass. If you consider yourself a fan of ghost stories and a fan of these Grudge movies, I can't recommend it higher enough.
Yeah.
I'm going to go from the only time I'll go from a 1 to a 10.
It's on Netflix, so if you want to see it, it's available. Definitely must see.
I know it's little scene, so I don't want to give a lot more of the plot away because it really does deserve to be mentioned. I just wanted to point out one scene to let you know what you're kind of dealing with in the show. And I also want to talk about sexual assault early on because if you are not down for that, the show does feature, a sexual, it's not graphic, but it does feature one. But it is a key plot point, so it's not like you're going to miss it. But it really is fantastic. I can't recommend it higher enough, and it's the kind of reboot that we deserve.
Mm-hmm.
We deserve. I just wish we got more of it.
It's a gritty reboot.
100%.
Are you ready for reviews?
Yeah. It's just you this week.
Oh, yeah.
2020 Roger Ebert was dead, and sadly he was not a Grudge spirit, so he did not come back. But I guarantee you, he wouldn't have reviewed it. That'd have been one he left for somebody else.
All right. The Grudge 2020, 2.2 user review, 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 4.4 IMDb score. Ju-on Origins, 3.7 user review, 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 6.1 IMDb. So quite a difference.
Yeah, big time.
I went with a 10-star review for The Grudge, and believe it or not, I did find some.
It's hard to believe, but I guess there had been somebody who was like, boy, I like these Grudge movies, but can't they be generic and non-Japanese?
This title of this review, a really well-made horror film.
Okay. What do you got, Obi?
The rating is low, so was my expectation. I like horror films, and this is really well-made horror film. Detective Muldoon, Andrea Riseborough, goes to a house out of curiosity, which is infamous for being a place of multiple gruesome murders. There she encounters a bizarre phenomenon. Soon she gets to know that the house is cursed, and whoever enters the house is destined to die. The rest of the story is Detective Muldoon's journey to find out how she can save herself and her son from the curse of the house. The film begins in Tokyo 2004, where Fiona Landers supposedly gets cursed and brings that curse to Pennsylvania. Much like the original, we get to see what happens to the Landers family, the Spencer family, and the Mathesis family in a non-linear fashion, but it feels less confusing than the original. We follow our detective who very level-headed as she goes over the case files for the previous victims, and we get to see what happened to them. One of the things that stands out from the beginning is the cinematography. It looks good. The Ju-on series is really creepy, but it was never easy on the eyes. The atmosphere is creepy in this film as well. The trash bag breathing scene in the first few minutes was superb. The scary scenes are really well done. The ghosts are creepy and grotesque. There are lots of blood and gore. There are lots of jump scares. I liked most of them. One actually got me. Did not see that one coming.
I like things that move. Movie pictures make me happy.
That's literally how you wrote it.
Yeah.
The background music is fitting. The acting is good. Some well-known faces are there.
This review doesn't end with I can't wait to start 3rd grade. I don't know what the fuck I want to do, okay?
John Cho, Lynn Shay, Damian Berger were great in their roles. There are lots of hate in the review section for this one, and most of the hate for changing the storyline. I like this one because of the changing in the storyline. The leading characters are all likable. Andrea Riseborough and Detective Muldoon did an excellent job. It is very rare to have likable characters in a horror film. I like the chemistry between mother and son. The film had a kind of It vibe going on. It sort of feels like a marriage between it and The Grudge.
No.
Which is a good thing.
It's not a thing.
The scary scenes
movie
were
did you
on
watch?
par with the Conjuring series.
No.
I love the ending. There are so many things about The Grudge 2020 recommend for any fans of horror genre.
Stop lying to people. You're a liar.
Man, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was a fun review. Hey, at least that guy enjoyed his time in the theater. That's what I'll say there.
And then here's a 1-star review for Ju-on Origins.
Lay it on me.
Don't waste your time with this series because it's a feminist propaganda.
Oh
rather
my
than art.
god.
All men are weak or crazy and violent, and all women are victims of violence. And there is not a single scene of the famous Ju-on female ghost killing people because it doesn't go well with the feminist propaganda,
It's a prequel.
which could rate less than 1.
It's not even an in-universe prequel, you dumbass.
There we go. I figured you'd like the
Yeah.
feminist propaganda.
That's right. Ju-on, they went woke and they went broke. That's what happened.
It's one of those woke guys. Woke
yeah.
bros.
Yeah, I always hate that when I'm doing YouTube research and I'm watching a video about something, somebody's talking, he's like, and then the social justice warriors. I'm like, fuck it. Now I got to toss out all this research. It is one of those things. At least it lets me know early on, like, oh, good, I don't need to pay attention to the rest of this conversation when somebody says something like that. And with that, we have completed The Grudge. We,
Thank God.
yeah, I watched more of the movies than you did because I wanted to.
Because you're crazy.
Well, I like the original sequel. I do. And I was curious about some of the Japanese sequels. I didn't make my way all the way through them, but I saw one of them at least. And I saw the second movie, which is a little bit better than I remembered it. And I saw the third movie, which wasn't great, but it was better than The Grudge 2020. So take that as you will. But it's over, and we are not done with J-Horror. We are moving right on to the Ring retrospective. We're going to do Ringu, The Ring, and cover Rings as well. And we are going to tie these two series together and cover Sadako versus Kayako,
Yeah.
The Grudge versus The Ring. In a movie that did not get that bad reviews, oddly enough. So that might be kind of fun. I'll look for some fun after having to deal with The Grudge 2020. So. But I like The Ring a little bit better. Spoiler. Than I like The Grudge movie.
Yeah.
So I'll probably have more fun there.
Yeah, we both like The Ring a lot.
That's true. Meredith, what are your socials?
I don't have social.
That's right. Fuck social media. Nobody needs it. But seriously, we do. So if you want to get a hold of us, you can email us at grittyrebootcast@gmail.com. Or you can simply look for us at Gritty Reboot at TikTok and on Instagram. And that's probably the quickest and easiest way to get a hold of us. So you can like any of our clips, share them, and of course, like and subscribe to anywhere that you go. And please give us a rating that's at least positive.
Yeah, we're getting some comments. So
Yeah,
we're loving that.
Yeah, we have some positive reviews. See, people don't hate us. No,
Yeah.
the word's out. I like it.
Even if we got a bad review, I would appreciate it.
No, not me. I just cry openly.
Just any kind of feedback is good.
If I got a bad review, I would just go in the shower and rock back and forth. Just scrub myself with a brush.
No, if you get a bad review and you see one about me, you just let me know.
No, I'll delete it. I'll delete it.
How am I supposed to get better?
What about that guy that called you an evil racist?
Who called me an evil racist?
It was about Candyman.
Oh.
It was about Candyman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not trying to be an evil racist.
Yeah, because I think we were talking about Virginia Madsen, and I was like, that'd be a terrifying place for a white person to go, is into the projects by themselves. Like that, like the movie portrays that accurately, and that was the comment he took, that you said yes to that. He's like, I grew up in the projects. They're safe, you evil racist. It's true, though. You are racist.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding. You're evil.
Wow. Just wow.
All right, guys. And with that, we are out.
Peace.